Okay, have you ever been in one of those back and forth battles with a chatbot? Where it seems to answer every single question just fine, but at the end of it all, you still don't have what you need. Well, it turns out the problem might not be the chatbot itself, but how we're measuring its success. Today, we're going to dive into a new way of thinking that asks one simple, but honestly revolutionary question. Did the bot actually help you get your thing done? Let's get into it.
This quote, wow, it just nails that feeling, doesn't it? The chatbot seems super smart when you ask it one simple thing. But the second you try to do something a little more complex, maybe ask a follow-up question or try a task with a few steps, everything just falls apart. You end up frustrated, the conversation goes nowhere, and the people who built the thing are just left scratching their heads trying to figure out what went wrong.
And that, right there, that leads us straight to the heart of the matter, the chatbot's hidden problem. And it's not some bug in the code, not really. It's a flaw in how we've been looking at them, how we've been grading their performance.
Okay, so this chart breaks it down perfectly. The old way, the traditional way, is kind of short-sighted. It just looks at one single turn in the conversation and asks, was that specific reply correct? But this new goal-oriented way, it zooms all the way out. It asks the real question, the one you and I actually care about. Did I accomplish my goal? It's really the difference between looking at a single tree and asking if the entire forest is healthy. The bigger picture is what matters.
And if you need proof that this matters, here it is. The data is crystal clear. In those longer conversations, the ones with follow-ups and multiple steps, users leave negative feedback a whopping 3 times more often. That's a massive signal, right? It tells us that the more complex a chat gets, the more likely it is to fail. And our old report cards just weren't catching this at all.
So that's the problem. And this is the solution. It's a new framework called Mind the Goal. And it does exactly what it says on the tin. It shifts the entire focus away from individual replies and onto the user's actual, goal.
This whole framework is built on 3 really smart ideas. First up, you stop grading individual answers and you start evaluating the entire user's mission. Second, you get a brand new metric to track this called the Goal Success Rate, or GSR for short. And third, and this is so important, when a goal does fail, you don't just mark it with a red X. You dig in to find out why with something called a root cause of failure analysis, or RCOF.
Okay, let's see this in action because this is where it gets really cool. So what you're seeing here is one single chat session. The Mind the Goal framework automatically chops this conversation up into 3 different goals. See that? The user's first goal, G1, is asking about desk decorations. Then G2 is about some internal project. And finally, G3 is a simple translation request. Now here's the kicker. Look at the results. Goals 1 and 2 are marked as failures. But wait, the bot gave answers, right? Yeah. But in G1, the logic was bad. And in G2, the bot totally misunderstood what the user wanted and had to be corrected. Only G3, that straightforward translation, was a complete success from start to finish.
And this brings us right to that core metric, the Goal Success Rate, or GSR. And I've got to tell you, this metric is tough. It's strict. A goal only gets a passing grade if every single step along the way was handled perfectly. There is 0 partial credit. You don't get points for getting it right on the 3rd attempt. And that totally makes sense, right? Because in real life, just one little mistake can throw the whole thing off track.
But just knowing that something failed, that's only half the story. To actually fix the chatbot, you need to know why it failed. And that's where that root cause of failure analysis comes in. It's like detective work. It pinpoints the exact problem. Did the bot just not understand the language? Did it fail to find the right document? Or maybe it found a document, but it was the wrong one. This gives the dev team an actual actionable roadmap for what to fix.
Okay, I know what you're probably thinking. This sounds great and all, but it also sounds like a ton of work. I mean, how could you possibly analyze thousands and thousands of conversations like this? Well, the solution they came up with is maybe the most clever part of this whole thing.
It's simple, really. They let AI judge other AI. They use these massive large language models, LLMs, as teacher evaluators. Basically, they've created an automated expert that can grade the chatbot's homework. And that is the secret sauce that makes this whole system work at scale.
So what exactly is a teacher model? Think of it like this. It's a super smart LLM that's been given a very specific set of instructions. Its job is to read a chatbot conversation, break it down into goals, decide if it passed or failed, and then figure out why. And here's the most important part. It's forced to show its work. For every single judgment it makes, it has to explain its reasoning. That transparency is what makes you able to trust the results.
And this all comes together in this really slick automated pipeline. Instead of just asking one AI judge, they send each conversation to a whole panel of these AI teachers. Each one casts a vote on how the chatbot did. If they all agree, boom, the label is locked in automatically. A human expert only has to get involved on the rare occasions when the AIs disagree. It's just a brilliantly efficient system. The AI handles the mountains of data, and the humans just step in for the really tricky edge cases.
Okay, so the theory is awesome. But the big question is, does this thing actually work in the real world? To find out, the researchers put it to the test on a real enterprise chatbot named AIDA. And the results? Well, they speak for themselves.
Right away, the framework gave them this incredibly clear picture of what was broken. Look at this. The number one reason goals were failing was retrieval failure. Basically, almost 40% of the time, the bot just couldn't find the information it needed. This was a game changer for the dev team. It told them, hey, stop worrying about making the bot sound clever and focus on fixing its ability to search for stuff.
And with that laser-focused data, they got to work. And look what happened. You can see the clear, steady progress. The chatbot's goal success rate went from a pretty mediocre 63% all the way up to 79% in just about 6 months. And we're not talking about just tweaking a few words here and there. These were major, fundamental improvements to the system, all guided and proven by this new way of measuring success.
Okay, so this is about way more than just fixing one chatbot. This whole shift in thinking, it has huge implications for how we build and, maybe more importantly, how we trust all kinds of AI systems.
So let's just recap the big wins here. First, it's super efficient because you're using AI to do the heavy lifting of evaluation. Second, you get insights you can actually use, not just some vague score. And maybe the most important thing of all, it finally measures what we, the users, actually care about. All of that creates this amazing feedback loop that leads to real, tangible improvements.
Look, at the end of the day, moving our focus from was the answer technically correct to did the user get their task done is just a massive step forward. It's how we start building AI that's not just reliable and helpful, but also accountable. This really matters because it means we're building tools that don't just seem smart, but are actually genuinely useful.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on, right? If AI can now reliably check up on other AI to make sure it's serving our goals, what's next? Where else can we apply this? How do we use this idea to build even bigger, even more trustworthy systems that can handle really complex jobs for us? I think that's the next big frontier.